More on Premier Lee's trip to Auckland and the China-New Zealand ties. Let's go to our current affairs commentator, Einar Tangen. He's in Beijing. Talk to me about this trip. New Zealand on the back end. He spent several days there in Australia. Talk to me about perhaps what you see as the real key ingredients in these economic deals.
Well, what a difference a change in locale makes. I mean, in Australia, it was a little bit sweet and sour. I think overall good. But, there was still Julie Bishop talking about political issues and some reticence about how to divide themselves between the U.S. and China. Well, New Zealand, completely different. All trade. Bill English, 4 days before the summit with Lee, said trade is number one. They're aiming to get their trade tariffs down, which are currently about 50%, down to about 90%, covering 90% of all goods that they ship. And they're shipping a lot. Between tourism, dairy, and agriculture, they have a bright future with China.
And the Belt and Road element of all of this, a lot of people talking about this on Twitter. This is really the first Western developed country to really kind of sign on. Talk to me about the significance of this.
Well, New Zealand was one of the first groups to sign on to the AIIB. They have been this is a small country, 4.7 million people. But what was interesting is the report that said that they're interested in seeing a free trade arrangement based on the Belt and Road. This is quite something for New Zealand to be calling for this. This could mean a tremendous deal. Remember, New Zealand was very active in TPP. Now that that has been discarded, you're noticing a very marked change in attitude. I mean, Bill English said the number one thing that he's looking for in terms of trade is free, open, multilateral trade. And he wants to protect the current status quo. So across the world, even in Australia, you're starting to see a lot of movement against the kind of uncertainty and me first attitude that Donald Trump and the U.S. have been pursuing.
Yeah, we're hearing it from English. Malcolm Turnbull said, this is not a ladder to escape low growth, but instead a shovel to dig it deeper. Also promoting globalization. We heard a lot of that from Premier Lee as well. And talk to me about the TPP. Obviously, New Zealand, Australia wanted to be a part of it. Trump turned his back on it. This is an opening for China in a sense, isn't it?
Well, it is, and quite frankly, there's a meeting going on in Chile with all the representatives of the TPP, including New Zealand, and they're talking about it. China upgraded. It was originally going to just have its ambassador kind of look in on it, and they've spanned a special trade representative. This could be things. Now, don't look for TPP to be pushed on as is. There will be probably some significant changes, even maybe in the name. But all of these countries are very dedicated to the idea that they put a lot of work into creating an economic future for themselves, and now they're trying to salvage it. And China is the logical source for that change.
Talk to me also about the opportunities for people-to-people exchanges. I know that that's always been a key element that President Xi's very much in favor of. Talk to me about how that figures in with New Zealand and China.
Well, education is a huge part of the sector, obviously tourism, but also immigration. Large numbers of Chinese have succumbed to the beauty and stability of New Zealand. And this is really something that could help the development of these two areas. Now remember, New Zealand, unlike a lot of countries, has dealt very well with its different ethnicities. This is a very open country. They've managed to adopt and embrace the Maori attitude, as we saw in the banquet, and this is something that will help them as they're dealing with China. I think it's very, very important. You have a lot of New Zealanders coming here, a very, very upbeat attitude towards China, and I think this is a real harbinger of maybe a sea change in attitudes internationally about how you work with China.